Hi everyone, as you can see it's almost dark, and for that reason I'm not going to mess around with filming too much. I'm going to get some baits in the water and then let you know what I'm up to today. Hi guys, it's a Sunday evening. I've got tomorrow off work, amazing. So I've taken the opportunity to get down back to one of my local club waters to get the rods out overnight this time. It's going to be pretty cold, but I really think it's worth getting out here, even if it's just for the R&R. But if I can catch a carp into the mix, then that'd be absolutely magic. I've managed to get 3 rods out. Left hand and right hand rods are on my classic snowman rig because that's what I caught my last fish on, and I just don't feel confident with anything else at the moment. And the middle rod is on one of my solid PVA bags, cast almost to the opposite bank where I saw some fish bow waving when I arrived today. It's getting really dark, so I didn't do a lot of filming getting things in place because I just wanted to get the rods out before we lose the light completely. I was able to put some bait over the top. I haven't gone mad with the bait, but I think I've got enough out there. I've used a mixture of my krill and candy nut crush boilies with some krill liquid poured over the top to try and add some extra attraction into the swim. If I'm lucky, one of these rods will do the business and catch me a fish. Now that the rods are out, I'm going to turn on my receiver so that I can hear any bleeps that might happen if I'm lucky, and I'm going to get the house up, the bivvy that is, as quietly as possible and see if I can't snag myself a fish during the night. Right, let's get that bivvy up. Well, there she is, guys. One bivvy with its overwrap on. Absolutely exhausting, but I'm guessing, given the temperature it's likely to be overnight, worth the effort. Well, finally I can put my feet up and treat myself to a little beer. It's taken a real effort. My glasses are steaming up. It's taken a real effort to get set up this evening. I've had the rods out, baits in the water, for probably about an hour and 20 minutes, something like that so far. And apart from a little bleep on the middle rod, which I think was just a little liner perhaps, there's been nothing happening out there. I haven't heard any fish crash, which is a little bit worried. But then again, it is cold now, and therefore the fish probably aren't nearly as active as they normally are. Crikey, I can barely see you. Let me take those off. But brilliant to be out here. Got the bivvy set up at last. It's only 10 to 5. It's absolutely pitch black out there. But I'm already enjoying being out here. Going to crack this bad boy open and relax. Just pick that up. Don't want to take any, or don't want to leave any litter behind, I should say. Anyway, cheers. Let's hope that next time I'm holding up a fish for you guys. Well, it wasn't what I came here to catch, but I have managed to catch myself a lovely tench. This fish came on the PVA bag rod. And I think you'll agree, what a handsome fish. What a handsome fish he is. So, not the target species, which of course is carp, but I can't complain at catching myself one of these, can I? The fish is ice cold, so I'm going to get it back in the water straight away. I've recast the rod already. There's always a chance that there might be a carp in the area too. Fantastic. Culinary delight I've got lined up this evening, is a cheese toasty. But it's not just any cheese toasty, it's a cheese toasty which I put some cooked sausages in, and some tomato as well. I made it at home and wrapped it in cling film so that all I had to do was whack it in the Ridge Monkey and warm it through, so that it's ready to eat. But this should keep me going for a little while anyway. I've got a pasty as well if I need it, so I won't starve, that's for sure. Just hoping that I get another bite and that next time is a big carp. Well, I was just settling down in the bivvy, thinking it was going to be a long dark night, and the middle rod has absolutely roared off, and the result is this 13.5 pound mirror carp, which is still full of energy. Really lovely fish. Just holding it really close to the map because it's still got so much power. There she is. Oh, steady girl. Steady, 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 steady. There she is. Hopefully you can see that on the camera okay. That's absolutely magic. Ooh. I'm going to pop her down, see if I can get one or two still shots. I'm going to rest it in the margins for a little while to get her energy back, take a couple of still shots, and then slip it back and get those rigs back out. Magic. I'm absolutely cock a hoots about catching that fish. Magic, but it's getting cold. I've just fired up the bivvy heater, but that takes quite a while to actually start kicking out any heat. So I might even have to get the hot water bottle on. It's only about just coming up to 8:30, so still fairly early doors. All 3 rods are back out where I want them to be. There's every chance of another fish. So magic. I've closed the bivvy door. I finally succumbed to the cold. I've closed the bivvy door. I've got the heater on. I'm going to probably have another cup of tea and then see if I can turn in for the night and get some sleep. Really pleased I made the effort to come out this evening for this overnight session. I was just getting settled, almost falling asleep, and the same rod, the middle rod on that solid PVA bag, that's 3 fish on that same tactic, that same middle rod now, and this one is ever so slightly bigger than the last carp. This one is 13 pounds and 12 ounces of muscle packed mirror, absolutely made up. Show you this fish if I can. There she is. What a beauty, absolutely magic. I actually suspect it's a angry male, this one. Don't know why, just because it's so aggro, but there it is, fantastic. Right, I'm going to retain this fish in the margin and get some stills. I wasn't up as early as I'd have liked to be, I'm afraid. I didn't sleep particularly well during the night, but managed to sleep right through sunrise, which is a bit of a problem. I have recast all 3 rods and put some bait around each, just for the last couple of hours of fishing that I've got left ahead of me. I'm going to start packing down the camp. In the end, the final score was I had those 3 fish, which you saw, but I haven't caught anything else. I did have another screaming run on my middle rod in the dead of night. It must be about 2 in the morning or something like that. I absolutely burst out of the bivvy and grabbed the rod and lifted into nothing. There just wasn't a fish there, so I don't know what happened there, but unfortunately it didn't result in another fish. But you never know, there's still time for another one this morning. The kettle's on. We'll have a nice cup of coffee and, as I say, then start packing everything down. One thing that I did want to share with you was those 3 fish, the tench and the 2 really lovely carp, which I'm really pleased about, came on my solid PVA bag rigs. And yesterday I filmed, before I came fishing, I filmed a little bit of video of me tying up some of those PVA bags which have done the business this time round. So in the next clip that's coming up now, I'll show you how I make those PVA bags and what my process is. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not saying it's the right way or the only way. I'm just saying it's my way. So enjoy. Hi everyone, I'm just at home in my kitchen doing some preparation for a short fishing trip that I've got coming up, and that starts with sorting out some of my solid PVA bag rigs, which you might have seen in my previous video. I really like using these things. It allows me to get a bait in the water really quickly, know that it's presented well, and know that there are some free offerings around the hook bait. I haven't caught loads and loads of fish on it, but I have caught some. The hook holds have been good, and I'm hoping that I can continue to catch some more. So the first things first, I'm going to get my rigs together, see what's usable, what's reusable, because I'm not somebody who changes my rig every time I cast one out. If you catch a fish, then yes, generally your hook might be impaired slightly and you may need to change that. But at least half of these rigs that I've got here haven't caught a fish, so they should be okay. I'll test each one out and I'll decide whether it's usable or not. And then if I need to tie up some more hair rigs to go inside the bags, I will. And I'll also start actually making some bags. So I'm going to move the camera angle slightly so that you can see what's going on with my hands and get an idea about how I put these rigs together and how I try to make sure I'm casting out something that's going to work if a fish picks it up. So here we go. First things first, a big knot, I'm afraid, of solid PVA bag rigs, which once used I've chucked into a bucket and they've become all wonderfully tangled, which is a top tip. Don't do that. So I'm just going to try and start untangling these and then checking out the hook situation. So here's the first one. See the hook there? It looks sharp to the naked eye, probably looks sharp enough on camera there, but I need to have a good look at this and decide whether it's worthy of being chucked back out into a lake or not. Now this hook hasn't been sharpened, I can tell, because it's got all of its coating on. Just looking at it against, I've got some white patches on my tablecloth here. Just looking at it against the white with my eye, it looks good and sharp and straight. Importantly, the point isn't turned over. And if I just test that hook on my skin, it is grabbing and penetrating my skin straight away with really little pressure. So I think this one's going to be good for another go. It's grabbing my nail as well. Yeah, that one's going to be fine. I'm going to reuse that one. Now that might seem like a lot of time to spend checking a hook, but when that makes the difference between catching a fish and not catching a fish, I suppose it's quite important. I will be ruthless if that one was even slightly dulled. Dulled, because all hooks are dulled once they've been used, I suppose. But if it was dulled any more than that, then I would have scrapped that rig and tie another one. So I'm going to go through. I've got 9 of these. I did have 10. One I lost in a bush during during a fishing session. I'm going to check all 9, and I'll let you know if I find one that's not so great. So there they are, 9 PVA bag rigs, all ready to go back inside the PVA bags. All the hooks are fine in terms of the hook points still being sharp, them being, I think, capable of catching me a fish, and I didn't need to change any and therefore replace any of the rigs of the braided hair rigs there. Which is great. I know some people wouldn't be comfortable reusing rigs. I do get it. I just don't often have a lot of time to tie new ones. And as it happens, I haven't got a great deal of time now. Just looking here, I'll show you what I've got. I've got a fairly long hair to accommodate one of my snowman rigs. I've got a nice sharp Fang X hook in a size 7. There is a tiny gummy hair stop on the actual hair itself where the baits will be attached. Sorry, it's a float stop, a gummy float stop, which just allows me to butt it up against the bottom bait to make sure the bottom bait and the pop-up stay together. There's a tiny bit of silicone tubing on the hook shank to help to trap the hair, sort of extend the whipping of the knotless knot, I suppose. And then this is all uncoated, flexible braid, supple braid, I should say, coming up to a loop-to-loop, so a figure-of-8 loop knot looped on to swivel, and the swivel is attached to an Avid PVA bag stem with a 2-ounce lead on it, and hopefully you can see that the lead actually will detach from the stem if need be. It's difficult to do with one hand, but yeah, that will just slip off of there should the fish be snagged at all, freeing up the rig. Oh, sorry, put my hand right in front of the lens, and making it a safe rig. All of this sits inside a nice PVA bag. I'm going to tie up some of those PVA bags now, and you'll be able to see how I do it. Some might say the length of this supple braid is a little bit long. I'd be inclined to agree. Perhaps if I were to retie these, I would tie them a little bit shorter, because the idea being the fish would be feeding in a small area of the PVA bag, which has melted away, and therefore might not be moving away particularly quickly. So it might be beneficial to have a shorter length of rig there. But these aren't massive. They're only about 5.5 inches, something like that, and that'll do for me. So let's get some bags tied up. So here's the plan. Let's rig up each of these 9 PVA bag rigs with a candy nut crush bottom bait to start with on the hair. And that'll be tipped off with a white chocolate pop-up. Combination which has caught me 1 or 2 fish recently, so I've got some confidence in it. Pull the hair stop into place, pull that gummy float stop down, and there, I hope you'll be able to see, is attached bait ready to go into the PVA bag. I'm going to do that 9 times over and then start making the bags. Okay guys, let's get these PVA bags tied up. So here's my mix. It's some very small krill pellets, some krill powder and some crumb boilie. I'm going to give that all a good mix, and it does quite a good job of packing into these bags. Got a PVA bag ready here. Trying to get them open is the first challenge. A little bit of a blow. There you go, and I blow it so I can see right down to the bottom of the bag. Take my first rig, lower it down into the bag, right down to the bottom, and I want the baits, the hook bait, to nestle in one of the bottom corners of the bag. Just my way of doing it. And then I nick the hook through the bag so that the point is pointing on the outside of the bag. That just holds everything in place, so that I can then just grip the top of the bag and the lead at the same time, leaving a hole here for me to put the loose bait in. Going to fill up about half of this bag and then lower the lead down onto what's there. Hopefully you can see that's about half filled, and now I'm releasing my grip on the lead and lowering it so that it sits on top of all of that. Then a bit more of the loose stuff on top. What I'm going to do is just make sure that stem is central. Grip the bag, give it a good tap to try and work as much of the very fine grain material into the gaps as possible. So I want this to be quite tightly packed if I can. And then I'm going to grip all of the loose material of the bag here and just twist it around the stem. Now if I take a length of PVA tape, which I've already cut to a length that suits me, I'm going to wrap it around a few times the stem and tie it off with a couple of overhand knots if I can. One. I'll take my time with these knots. Even though there's nothing particularly special about the knots themselves, they are holding everything in place on the cast. So just want to make sure that it's well secured. Okay, trim off the excess. There's a bag. And what I'm going to do is tidy this up a little bit. And I'm going to achieve that by pressing into the corners and then licking and sticking the edges down to make this a little bit more aerodynamic. You can see my hook bait there, still where I wanted it in the bottom, extended from the back of the hook, which is what I wanted.
second corner. There you go, that's a nice tightly compacted bag there. The hook is just here, and when all of this material, the PVA material, melts, it will leave the hook exposed and the hook bait extended from the back of the hook where I want it to be. I'm then going to trim off the excess PVA from around the stem. Pop some holes in there with a baiting needle. Make sure it sinks quickly. And there's the finished article. I'm going to try and make 9 like that. There's the finished articles, 9 bags. I'm sure I won't use all 9 in one session, but ready to go. I tend to tie these, I'll keep them in a bucket to keep them dry, obviously. I tend to tie these at home, tie them in my kitchen where it's dry. I find it really difficult to do this on the bank. So, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes here of putting these together will save me loads of time on the bank. You might notice 1 or 2 irregular shapes there, which annoys me. They're not going to fly so well on casting, those odd shaped ones, and it's because my usual bag supply, which is, I believe, a company called Carp craze, don't seem to be out there anymore. Don't seem to be able to get hold of my usual size and shaped bags. So I bought a bulk load of cheap ones off of eBay, and they're absolutely naff. So although I will use them and go through them, note to self, I'll spend a bit more money and get some better ones next time. Let's hope one of these catches me a fish. Well, the rods are still out, just in case there's a chance of a last minute bite. But as you can see, everything else is hung up to dry. Well, dry-ish, before it goes back in the car. I've taken the bivvy down, and it really is last chance saloon now. Going to give it another half hour, and then I've got to be on my toes. But it's been a brilliant session anyway. That's pretty much the end of my session. I'm afraid I'm going to have to get back home. The time has come. I've packed pretty much everything down. I'm just carrying the last few bits to the car, and then I'll be on my way. But it's been a brilliant session. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be back on the bank again soon. Cheers.